listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
The Cardinal Health Counter Talk podcast, in collaboration with Pharmacy Podcast Network, is for independent pharmacists to learn about the state of the industry, innovative services and solutions, and the future of pharmacy. Join me, your host, Jason Callori, for conversations with pharmacists, Cardinal Health leaders, and industry experts, sharing best practices, discussing industry trends, and showcasing Cardinal Health products and services. You can subscribe to the Cardinal Health Counter Talk podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cardinal Health Counter Talk podcast. I'm your host, Jason Callori, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Ashley Romero, who went from being a pharmacy tech to a pharmacy owner. She is from the great state of Utah and has been a big part of the behind the scenes, both financially in her role, and which we will talk a little bit about today. Ashley, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your path. You became a pharmacy tech straight out of high school, correct? And then to your path now, you became an owner. So tell us a little about your pathway, your education, and where you are today.
So I actually did tech school while I was in high school. I figured high school pays for it, so I may as well do it and check it out and see what it's like. And right when I turned 18, I took the pharmacy tech licensing test and went straight into an independent. And I stayed there from when I was 18 for 16 years. And I never wanted to go work anywhere besides an independent. I just loved working for independent. It's more personable and just, it's more relationship, I feel like. Or independent, I feel like it gives you the leeway of, enjoying your job and doing things different and just creating a relationship with your patients.
So now you've been in Utah you've been in Utah your whole career, correct?
Yeah, my whole life. Never left.
Your whole life? Never left Utah? Mm-hmm.
Yep. Nope. I love Utah, but I really wanted to be a pharmacist, and that was like my dream job. And getting married and having kids kind of put it on the back burner. So once I did start going to school and realizing that pharmacy school is not like your normal tuition, I would say it's a lot more. And in my eyes, I was like, I don't want to graduate and have a student loan that is as much as a house. So I told my husband now that I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, it doesn't seem logical to me. Like, let's just own a pharmacy instead and have the same benefit. So it's kind of like going the back way around of becoming a pharmacist, I guess. Getting that same payoff.
So you're a pharmacy tech, you maybe wanted to be a pharmacy, and then in seeing the tuition, you decided, you know what, I'm going to wait on that. So you just became a pharmacy owner anyway. Now So let me get this straight. So you were a part owner first, right? And are you now a full owner, or are you still part owner?
No, I'm still a part owner with another pharmacist. So
okay,
there's
great.
Both of us, but I do the majority of the work, I feel like, but
I do majority of the work. I love it. So why was it so important to you to become an owner? I just always like to get that perspective.
I think like everybody's dreams is wanting to have their own business. I feel like in America, like that's the ultimate dream, is to have your own business and do that. There are days that I'm like, why did I do this? Like, I feel like that's with any business you own. Like, you all have those hard days where you're like, what was I thinking? But, it's turned out great. Like, we've been owners since 2019, and it's been great. I don't know anything I would have done different. I probably still been at the same job doing the same thing, just not having the same benefit, the better benefit, I guess I should say.
Yeah, for sure. And, we've talked to a lot of pharmacists in previous episodes about, adapting to different variables that have happened throughout, not only their business, but just in life in general. Obviously, the last several years, with COVID have been pretty challenging, and that's kind of forced everyone to adapt their business models a little bit. What are some of the challenges that you saw, as kind of a part owner and working through some of those challenges in the last several years?
I think your personnel getting COVID is really hard, because then you have no personnel and you have to step in and fill those shoes and be an owner, but yet be a tech and be a pharmacist and do both at the same time. So it's like burning candles at both ends, but then also like making sure you're not short on your inventory and there's not a shortage. And then you got to bring in the COVID vaccine and do that too. So it's kind of like, I don't think people realize how much the pharmacy world has changed, like with COVID, and how we're all going crazy. I feel like we're just running like with chickens with our heads cut off, like trying to do our normal job, do the COVID vaccine, but yet make sure the business is still running and do the day-to-day stuff. But I mean, it's gotten a lot better now that most people are getting vaccinated, or they haven't gotten vaccinated and don't want to. So, I mean, that's helped out a lot, I feel like.
Yeah, we've talked. Yeah, we've talked to a couple pharmacists about pharmacy burnout, and that's a real thing. You know, that's been happening across the landscape of pharmacy for the last few years with COVID and everything that's come after that. Real quick question. I think you might be the first, maybe the second pharmacy tech who has gone in to be a part owner. Do you know any other pharmacy techs who became part owners as well?
I don't.
Oh, really? Okay. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. So when I went to RBC, they're like, "Oh, are you an owner?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, are you a pharmacist?" I'm like, "No, not really." So their eyes just go get all big, like, "Oh, wow, you can do that as a tech?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure can."
That's what I was thinking when I read your bio. I'm like, wait, she's a pharmacy tech, but a pharmacy owner? I mean, why couldn't you do that? So,
yeah.
I mean, you may not be,
right?
you may not be a pharmacist, but pharmacy techs, they, based on what they do, they really are kind of that backbone to the entire pharmacy, what's happening behind the counter. And you getting even more into the weeds with the challenges and the finances and everything like that. So tell us a little bit more about some of the financial. You just mentioned a little bit of the, some of the things that happen when you come to tracking inventory and managing that. And you've also, you manage kind of the finance part of it. Get into some of those issues that you've seen over the last several years as these business models have evolved.
So I feel like cash flow for most businesses is like, you buy your product, you sell it, and you get paid right then. With pharmacy, it's really hard because it's like you have to pay for your product, but then you have to wait, 30 to 90 days from your insurance to pay you. It's not like a normal business. So your cash flow is not the same as, a typical retail business. So I think that's really hard with pharmacy, is the cash flow. So with the inventory, SIM is really nice because I have one patient on this super expensive product. I don't have to keep it on my shelf, for 30 days till they refill it. I can set it in SIM so that it will come in right before they need to pick it up. And then I'm not holding that inventory for so long on my shelf. So that's really helps with like the cash flow is the SIM. And then with Recon, it really helps. Like I don't have to sit and, double check every day to make sure I'm getting paid for these claims. I have people on the back end doing it for me. I just have to check the boxes that I got the check, and then they balance it all for me. So, I mean, that saves a lot of time.
Yeah. So Recon and SIM are two solutions here at Cardinal Health, which you're definitely using, which is great. Tell us about do you have a specific story that kind of sticks out? Let's start with the inventory side. Let's talk about inventory and maybe a specific story that you have where the inventory management process was really helped you in solving an actual problem. So can you have anything that you can remember in that aspect?
I mean, I feel like it solves problems, daily it will adjust my numbers. So it's not like when I fill a prescription, I don't have to sit and write down everything and make sure that that's coming in. Like SIM does that for me. So I can, we've had a lot of problems with our computer software company, like that and SIM matching up together. So like we'll type a prescription and it will say we don't have it. And I'm like, well, why don't we have it? Like, this is ridiculous. And then I go look on the shelf. I'm like, oh wait, SIM has got our back. We do have it. So then I have to go back and be like, hey, we do have it, kind of like put my foot in my mouth, like, sorry, just kidding, we have it. But I mean, it's been really great. I feel like SIM will even give us reports of like, hey, you've had this on your shelf for more than 90 days. You should probably send it back before it's too late, which has been great. So I don't have to sit on that inventory either. So it's really helped like with cash flow and just, making sure we're stocked as a pharmacy versus relying on just us to do it ourselves when we don't know that we need to increase our on hands or lower our on hands. Like it does all that adjusting for you.
So how was it before you implemented SIM into the business? How were you keeping track of stuff like that?
So when I first came on, the grocery store had owned it. They brought me in from their other store to help, because they knew I was a spitfire and would get stuff done. And I was like, you need to implement this before I even go in, because I'm not going in if it's not implemented. I can't do it. So I don't know what it would have been like, but I feel like it would have been pure hell. So
well, yeah, you are part owner now. You can make those decisions.
Yeah. So, before I was even owner, I told them that they had to do it. So, that's just my personality is I'll tell you straightforward how it is. And if I don't like it, I'm not doing it. So
Love that. From a financial standpoint, tell us a little bit about Recon and some of the now we all know about, the challenges between DIR fees, getting more transparency to financial trends and everything that comes along with that in today's pharmacy landscape. How has Recon kind of helped you take the complexities out of that?
So, I don't know if most people know how Recon works. Is like they watch to make sure you're getting paid on like every single prescription that you process through your pharmacy. So, when we transitioned ownership to like the new owners, as in me, one of them, we had to refill out all of our insurance info. We had to change our tax ID, like all of that. And so redoing all those insurance contracts was a mess. And we had gotten some, claims from just barely from March of 19 that we had never been paid for. So, as a pharmacy day to day, that's a lot of money. So it ended up being that our Recon lady reached out and was like, hey, have you ever seen these payments? So I went back through QuickBooks and I'm like, I'd never seen them. I just didn't know what to do with them, just sitting in the little file. And she's like, well, let me reach out and see, if they've paid them, and if they haven't, like if they can reissue a check. And I'm like, okay, not expecting anything at all. Mm-hmm. And they had come back, and it wasn't just those 3, paychecks. It was like 8 or 7 checks that we have never, ever cashed or never received or got sent back because the deposit was wrong. So, that helped our cash flow in general, being that it was like $61,000, I believe is what it ended up out being.
Wow, 61.
I had hard trackers like
$61,000. Wow.
Yeah, wow. I about had a heart attack. I was like, wait, is this real? Am I reading this? Like, let me zoom in on this Excel spreadsheet. And it was like, I just sat there at my desk like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, how is that possible? And then I had to, reach out to the insurance company, be like, hey, so she even reached out to them saying, hey, they've never cashed them. Can you reissue a check? And finally, I'm like, that's a lot of money. I'm just going to call them myself. I can't wait for an email. And sure enough, it was like 4 days later, they deposited $61,000 into our account. And I was like, oh, that's a great bonus, I guess. Like, not ever knowing that you didn't, like, you missed it,
Yeah, $61,000 is nothing to turn your nose at. My goodness gracious.
No, and it's a lot in pharmacy world. Like when you're sitting there waiting 90 days for something that you billed, 90 days ago, and you are just like, well, I hope I get that.
Yeah,
every great on that end.
Yeah, every dollar counts. When you didn't have Recon, and now that you've had, how long have you had Recon implemented? About.
So right when I became the owner, there was, I wanted SIM, I wanted Recon, I wanted the other one that calls you to tell you like, hey, you misbilled this, you should rebill it and you can get your money back, like higher amount. Like I just went through and I told the rep, I'm like, I want all these things. They're like, are you like right now? I'm like, yep, right now. I'm not going another day without it. Because my old job, he was with Cardinal, my old boss, and I kept telling him, we have to do Recon. We have to do Recon. He's like, no, I don't want him to know my business. And I'm like, but they know your business. So it doesn't matter. Like, you want to make sure like you're getting paid, you know, for all your prescriptions. And he's like, no, I know. And I'm like, you don't know, but he was so hard-headed and so old-fashioned that he wouldn't do it. So that was the first thing I did when I came on as an owner. Like, we're doing this.
That's an interesting perspective. I mean, that's an interesting perspective. Now, you've been to RBC, you mentioned, and you've seen when we talk to the pharmacists and pharmacy owners from the perspective of, you know, changing up the game a little bit, changing up your model. Do you feel like you've had to, you know, pressure your other owner a little bit more into, you know, adopting some new technologies to help the business?
No, because that was my old boss that wouldn't do the new, like at my old pharmacy that I worked for 16 years with as that independent. So he wouldn't do it. But then my other owners there, I mean, to be honest, I just do it. I don't ask. Make the decision and be like, hey, well, this is what we're doing. And they're like, oh, okay. So like when I went to RBC and they had to spill like the bubble packs, I'm like, well, I'll take all of that. Let's do that. And came back and like, we're doing this now. And they just, you know, okay.
So you're already using the spill as well?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, and how's that going for you?
Yep. It's good. Like we, well, not this RBC, but the last RBC that you could go to is when we got it. And we've got probably 20, 25 patients that we do every month for it, which is, you know, helps business a lot. Like people have transferred to us to help with the bubble pack. And I really like this spill compared to the more traditional bubble pack where it's all the pills are together in one little cup, little bubble pack versus, you know, one individual bubble pack per prescription. So, I mean, it's helped a lot. I think it's brought in more business than, I mean, there are times that I complain about it, but it's my own personal, not wanting to do it at the time. But yeah, it's helped a lot, I feel like.
So now that you've been using Recon for a little bit while and Sim together, how much money do you think those two in tandem save your pharmacy?
I would say, well, at least 61,000 for sure, but I would say like more, you know, hundreds of thousands, like, I don't know. It's hard to put because when we took the pharmacy over, they didn't have any of that, you know? So who knows what other claims they missed, but
no, very true.
I just know that, you know, that couple $100, I don't even think it's like for all the ones that we're on, I don't even think it's, you know, $500 a month. I don't think I don't know. I think it pays for itself, I should say. Because if you think about the money that you have to pay yourself or your time, I don't know how much most people's time is worth, but I feel like mine's worth more than, you know, $500 a month of all that time that I would have to put into it myself. I think it pays for itself. It's a no-brainer, I feel like.
Yeah, and obviously this would give you more of that time to put into connecting with your patients, obviously, which is really what the heart of independent pharmacy is. What other aspects of your pharmacy have you seen evolve in the last few years, and not just from a Recon and Sim standpoint, but, you know, other parts of your pharmacy?
I think just us being more personable with our patients and treating them like humans and not like another, you know, paycheck or a number. Like we had a patient come in last night that complained and they don't know my name. They don't know anything. You guys are so nice. And she'd never even met us. And I'm like, well, that's just like, in my mind, I'm like, that's terrible that they don't even know your name, or they don't even treat you like a human. They just treat you like next. And I feel like just being, like you said, more personable with patients is like our number one important thing. And I think it's gotten better and better over the years, like especially with COVID, where you can't really, you know, talk or meet with people person to person. So we've done a lot of deliveries. We go out to their house and help them. I remember there was one time this little lady, she didn't even have milk. And I'm like, well, I'll just pick up milk on my way for you. And she was just like so baffled that I would do that. And I'm like, well, I'd rather me get milk and get COVID than you get it and die. So how many gallons do you want? So I literally stopped at the grocery store on my way there and picked up like 4 gallons of milk for her. So she and her husband didn't have to go to the store. And it was just, you know, like those little things, I think impact people and make it, more important, I guess, a core memory, I guess is what they call them. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, I heard a story about there was a pharmacy in the Bronx, New York, and she lives, the pharmacy is in a very kind of contained part of the city, and all the apartment buildings around that pharmacy all use, her pharmacy. And basically, when she finds out that one of her patients isn't feeling well, I mean, she'll literally cook food for them that night, and she'll go into the pharmacy in the morning. She'll fill some scripts, have her team kind of back her up. And then when she has a break, she will actually bring them food, each and every day that they're not feeling well, which is just like one of those personal touches that I think independent pharmacists have in spades, way over anything, any of the other chains can provide. So I definitely just want to personally thank you for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's more like we have the ability to, like, where I feel like if another chain pharmacist were to do that, they would probably get fired. So it's where independent is super important to the community, and those little things I think will help keep independence around, Yeah,
I totally agree. I think the personal touch is what's needed even more, especially these days. So before we end things, I just want to ask you any advice for any possible pharmacy techs who are looking to maybe become a part owner one day. What would you say to them if you were talking to a group of pharmacy technicians and they had no idea that they can maybe one day own a pharmacy, I should say? What would be your advice to them?
It may seem scary in your head, but it's actually not as bad as it seems. And just to do it, like, I was really nervous signing the papers when I bought the pharmacy, and I even looked at the other pharmacists. I'm like, are we sure we're going to do this? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, wait, you already signed? I haven't even signed yet. Like, I don't know. And it was almost like I was getting married again. And I was like, I'm so scared to do it. But in the end, I'm so grateful that I did do it, because I was like, we're investing all our money, like our life savings into this. Like, are we sure we want to do this? And my husband was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, supported me 100%. But it was me that was like, I don't know. I'm so scared. I don't know if this is the right thing. Like, what if we don't have food, or what if we live with your parents forever? But it ended up being, even better than I expected. And I would never, like, even if we did fail, like, it was, it's a learning experience. And I just say, follow your dreams, and just, don't let a pharmacist scare you. Like, you don't have to be a pharmacist to do that kind of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, just go for it. Just take that risk. Don't be scared.
I love that. Well, personally, I want to say congrats to you and all the success that you've had at your pharmacy. Tell if anyone is actually listening to this podcast right now and they're in Utah, tell us where to find your pharmacy so they can come say hi to you.
We're in Roy, and we're just called Roy Pharmacy, just, 20, 30 miles north of Salt Lake, and probably 10 miles south of Ogden, just in Roy, right next to a grocery store called Weiniger's. And yeah, it's awesome.
All right. Well, you guys might want to wait a little bit, because she told me it was snowing there this morning. So I'm not sure what the weather is now, but it might be sunny in like 80 degrees in a couple of hours. So that's Utah weather, right? That's Utah weather, right?
Right. Yep.
All right. Well, I want to thank Ashley Romero for coming on and telling us a little bit about her story, her pharmacy, some of her challenges, being a pharmacy owner, as a pharmacy technician, also some of the aspects of both Recon and Sim, two great, or I should say, Cardinal Inventory Manager, and also the reconciliation solution as well, and how important they are to each and every pharmacy. I really thank you for that. And for everyone that's listening, I want to say thanks for listening, for downloading, and for all your support. See you next time right here on the Cardinal Health Counter Talk podcast. Make sure you tell everyone around, all your fellow pharmacists, to listen to it, download it, and we'll see you real soon next time on the Cardinal Health Counter Talk podcast. Take care, everybody. The
testimonials appearing in this podcast reflect individual experiences and individual results may vary. Cardinal Health is not claimed, nor should the listener assume that any individual experience recounted in this podcast is representative of what another consumer may experience.